Welcome back to another edition of the SBK Betting Podcast, where I'm pleased to say the gang is back together. Ross Miller, Tom Collins, join me for the midsummer treat. It is the highlight of the flat season for many. It's the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Qipco Stakes this weekend, along with some cracking action at York as well. Before we get into that, last week I was so thrilled to see Elite Status back with a bang. 5-2, he was able to win at Newbury, and the Hack would beat his elders, including a Group 1 winner in regional. I believe he's the best 3-year-old sprinter around, and I can't wait to see what he can do later on in the season. Tough for TC. You've had a good run of things, 2 seconds and a third. I know that is, you'd rather have a loser than a second, an outright loser than a second, because it's so painful. But we know that you're in good form regardless, and we've got a good weekend to get into. I'm sure Ross would have tipped the summer plate winner. So we'll move on from that. Last weekend is out of the way. It's all about this weekend. As I said, the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes is the first race we'll feature at 3:40 on Saturday. My opinion, I'm pleased this race has stood up with 9 runners, as I remember having butterflies about this race this time last year. It was a really good renewal this time last year, as we had a Derby winner in Auguste Rodin. He's back in the picture, and we also have a Dubai Shima Classic champion in Rebels Romance. He's excelled internationally, and personally one of my current favourite horses in training in Blue Stocking has been declared. We are deprived of a real stand-up 3-year-old, although Sunway's in there. He's 10-1, but Auguste Rodin 5-4 favourite for the King George. This is a race where we'd imagine he's going to be ridden aggressively, and it's all about TC. I'd say whether this international globetrotting Rebels Romance can transfer the form he showed, in Hong Kong and Dubai, all over the world, back onto home soil, because he's been a bit of a revelation in the early part of this year.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very interesting race, isn't it? And much like what you said there, I'm very happy that the majority of the entries have actually stood up after declarations, because there was a chance that this was going to really cut up and develop into a race that we weren't overly interested in. Now, I'm not exactly thrilled by it from a punting perspective, but from a viewing and a neutral perspective, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, purely because there are so many questions unanswered about all of these horses. I mean, Auguste Rodin, we still kind of categorize him as a will he or won't he type. He's either brilliant or he completely blows out. And it's not like there's only been one blowout in his career. There have been numerous. So he's very hard to get right. And at 5-4, do I want to punt him? Probably not. But he is the most likely winner. He's a very talented horse. And as you say, if he's ridden aggressively, like he was last time up, we seem to see the best of him. So he's the most logical play. But at the same time, I want no part of him at the price. So then this develops into a race where you're thinking, okay, we've got a short price favourite that I'm willing to take on, but who do I take him on with? Because the rest of the field have all got huge doubts. Rebels Romance is the horse that I love as well as you. As a neutral, I'll be cheering on. I won't be having a bet in the race, but how can you not cheer on a horse that's 13 from 19 in his career, 5 from 5 in the UK, albeit at lower levels, coming back off a long trip from Sha Tin where he showed his best and was phenomenal, seems to do it all around the globe. He's kind of a better Highland Reel, in my opinion. It's just, is he capable of performing off a relatively short turnaround from that global trip over to Hong Kong, coming back to the UK, and then he's going to go to the US later in the year. So this feels a little bit like a stepping stone, but also he's capable of winning. So he's a tricky horse to assess from a punting perspective. I think he's probably second favourite for a reason, due to his class, and he's probably the right price. I'll be cheering him on as a neutral. Then you go down to the horses further below him in the betting. Blue Stocking's yet to prove it against the boys. Someway now faces the elders, and has been a little bit disappointing this year, I would say, compared to David Monizier's really high regard of this horse. Middle Earth steps up in grade. Luxembourg is kind of a grade 2 plus horse, group 2 plus horse. He's not a group 1 proper caliber performer. And then Dubai Honor, who's not got his ground. So there are loads of questions to answer. Therefore, this isn't a punting race for me. I'll be cheering on Rebels Romance, but I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I think, Rebels Romance has got this really attractive profile now, seeing what he's done in Hong Kong and Dubai, and he's clearly got a penchant for this sort of the fast-paced nature of the race setup of those races. I think we tend to have a bit of a recency bias with the likes of Auguste Rodin, seeing what he did at Royal Ascot. I'm not sure how strong that race was. Also, it was over 10 furlongs. Is he a genuine mile-and-a-half horse? I think, as you say, there are a few question marks. It probably shouldn't be outright favourite in my mind, whereas Blue Stocking at least is coming into this off the back of such a brilliant Group 1 success, as you say, against the girls only. Ross, we kind of lack that standout 3-year-old to make this really, mouth-watering. Has Sunway done enough to deserve his position in here to sort of fight against his elders?
Yeah, I think he has, Jess, because I think the makeup of the race and the track will perhaps give him his best conditions of the year. I completely concur with what TC said about Auguste Rodin. I think if all of these rock up in their very best form, he's probably the best horse in the race. But he has been disappointing. I'm always a bit loath to take on an Aidan O'Brien trained horse because I think he's so good at figuring them out as they go along. I don't think there's a win or a loss that goes by where they don't extract every bit of key information out of him. I think it's notable that, to my mind, they've got 2 pace makers in here from Hans Andersen and Luxembourg. Because yes, he needs to be ridden aggressively, but at the same time, they've referenced a number of times that he doesn't do much when he gets to the front. So he's a horse with a really sort of niche set of circumstances that will see him at his best. So therefore, as TC said, at 5-4, you immediately want to sort of look away from him. And then if he goes and wins, you'll probably be a little bit dull about why he's back the best horse in the race from the best operation in the race. Rebels Romance, a horse I find hard to get a grasp on because I don't follow a lot of international flat racing. But just looking at its form, looking at a couple of runs, I agree with what you said. I think maybe the tempo of international racing suits him better. His last run on UK soil comfortably won a listed contest on the all-weather, but Elegant Man, who was runner-up, has been absolutely thumped in a Group 2 since then. Blue Stocking I love, and she did me well last time, but I just wonder whether she falls between being perhaps a little bit lacking a gear for a mile and a quarter and whether they will need to compromise how they ride her over this trip. Just gives me a bit of a concern up against the boys. I thought Middle Earth was worthy of consideration because he was poorly positioned. There's no doubt about that in the Hardwick Stakes. We've mentioned a few times that all week throughout Royal Ascot on the round course, coming from far back was very difficult. And to compound that, he was pretty wide for a lot of the race as well. So I think you could upgrade his performance. And if Isla Jura, who had won the Hardwick, had come here, I'd have been really quite keen on him. So I would give Middle Earth a chance. I think strong pace likely. This track, slightly smaller field, less traffic to navigate. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see him in the shake-up. But I then just came back to Sunway, the 3-year-old. Now, maybe I'm being a bit sort of matter-of-fact about it, but he's officially rated 115. I think he's worthy of that rating. It was a big run in the Irish Derby last time when he took a while to pick up and really got going. He gets an £11 weight for age allowance, which officially puts him £3 clear on the ratings. And a bit like Middle Earth, I think this track, testing track, strong pace assured, I think, with the Hans Andersen and Luxembourg, the 2 pace setters. I think Goliath will go forward. I think Dubai Honor will go forward for all that this isn't going to be his ground. I could see this really falling apart in the closing stages, and I think he'll be staying on really well. Oisin Murphy jumps off onto Middle Earth, obviously, but James Doyle cannot have been riding with more confidence. He's got that big retainer. He's riding plenty of winners for them, getting on plenty of chance rides. So I thought a decent price Sunway was worth considering and should run into the frame. And, if Auguste Rodin bombs out, it's anybody's race.
Yeah, which is what he did last year, as we know. At Sunway 10-1 with SBK. I do think, more I look at it, the more I think that Los Angeles would have had a cracking chance if he had turned up, if they had decided to go with him. But they feel that this is Auguste Rodin's opportunity to claim a really solid Group 1 in this country again. But look, Rebels Romance deserves to be fighting for favouritism, in my opinion. So 92 is a good price, but I'm going to go with Blue Stocking. I was just waiting and watching the declarations to come through because obviously she probably wants it with a little bit more give. There's a bit more rain around, but it's very, very damp and there's a lot of dew around as well. So I said there's a lot of nice grass cover there. So I'd imagine Blue Stocking would be fine on the ground. Yes, she hasn't done it really against these boys of this quality yet before, but with the hard pace up, I think that she'll be, the race might turn out fine for her. I hope it will, a bit like it did last time when Emily Upjohn just kicked for home too soon. So I'm willing to give Blue Stocking a go at 5-1. I just really hope that eventually they'll end up in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe come the end of the year. So that's the King George VI at Queen Elizabeth Stakes, coming up at 3:40 at Ascot on Saturday. We've also, considering the racing that we have next week at Glorious Goodwood, we've actually got a very decent set of race meetings this Saturday that have turned out pretty strong, considering, as I said, there might be several horses that will be weighted with for the Goodwood week. But the York Stakes over 1 mile, 2.5 furlongs is an opportunity for this kind of 10 furlong division to really show up. And it seems the long-awaited return of Passenger, who was last seen at Chester, winning very well. He beat Isra, who's gone on and franked the form at Royal Ascot. Alflela, last year's winner, is 2-1. King's Gambit, who is considered very unlucky at Royal Ascot last time, 4-1. Royal Rhyme 11-2. Ancient Rome is 16-1. So, as I said, King's Gambit was the horse that I was super excited to see at Royal Ascot. Was he unlucky? Was he not given maybe the best of opportunities? Was he beaten by a better horse, Tom? Or does any of that even matter in a race like this, where you've got some seriously good horses in this race and some genuine Group 1 performers?
Yeah, it's a really good race, the York Stakes, and albeit it's a smaller field than what we've just covered in the King George, I think this is a better punting race, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to it. The top three in the market all have winning claims. You've, of course, touched on them there. Passenger coming off the long layoff, back after a minor setback. This horse is the real deal. If he shows his A game, he's going to be tough to beat, and he handles this track. He's already proven that in the past. So I'm wary of Passenger, and he's a horse I actually love, and I was with him at Chester last time, kind of got a bit of an allegiance towards him, but coming off the layoff as favourite in this race, where there's two proper contenders against him, he's hard to bet. Saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if he won. Then you've got Alflela, who, as you've said, won the race last year. He's 2 from 3 at York. He comes in off the back of a really good run in the Prince of Wales Stakes at Royal Ascot as well. He's extremely talented. So again, you can't write him off. But I, like you, love King's Gambit in this race. I mean, he was super impressive in the London Gold Cup. It probably wasn't as good a London Gold Cup in hindsight as we've seen in recent years. The form has worked out okay, but not amazingly. Poneros, who finished second, has been a little bit disappointing. Sean T, very similar to that. And a few others back in the pack have, there've been a couple of winners, but the majority haven't been as progressive as we may have thought. However, he then went to Royal Ascot and he was unlucky. I am convinced he was the best horse in the race. He was just too far back, and it was hard to win from way off the pace on the round course anyway. But they didn't go overly quick in the early stages, and William Buick got in a bit of trouble when trying to find a run in the latter part of the race. And obviously, he finished off 2 to everything else as 1. If you look at the sectionals, he's clearly the horse that finished off his race the best, and he was just unlucky to come out second. Now, I think he's on a real stiff upward trajectory, and considering the 2 at the top of the market are solid and we kind of know what to expect, King's Gambit doesn't have that much to find. It's around £5. And I wouldn't be surprised if he found that in this race. And also, how brilliant will it be if Callum Shepherd rode a big race winner here? I think that jockey booking is extremely interesting. So I'm going to be with King's Gambit. I think he's open to the most improvement. And albeit the top 2 in the market have proven a little bit more class at this stage, he could definitely be that top level horse that we all hope he is.
Yeah, as you say, it's ironic that this is the race day that he would have been on Isle of Jura in the King George, and that horse out with an injury this season. So he goes up to York and gets a spare ride really on King's Gambit, who, yeah, he to me looked like a group, at least 2 horse in the making when he won that London Gold Cup. And we'll see how that form pans out with JRB, who I thought was going to be in this race, but he sidestep it. As you say, Passenger is the one that we don't really know where we're at with him. He had an infection which ruled him out the Prince of Wales Stakes, which he had been favourite for. And if he had turned up in that, would he have beaten Auguste Rodin? We don't know. We don't know really, where we are with him. But an infection, they were hoping to make the Eclipse. They didn't make the Eclipse. So it's been a bit of a race against time. Does that worry you, Ross?
Yeah, it does slightly, Jess. I think King's Gambit 4-1 with SBK is a really good price, and I completely see the appeal of him. And as he said, Alflela, really impressive winner last year. You cannot write him off. I generally try and let price dictate where I put my allegiance, and I'm not mad about the price of Passenger at 7-4. Like you said, coming off the break, Michael Stout's form is hardly outstanding. 1 winner from his last 9. But I come back to that Chester run. I thought he looked like he had enough of a covering on him walking around the paddock at Chester. I would have expected him to have stepped forward for that. He got caught in a pocket. I think he did really well to win at Chester. And at the time, people knocked it because Israel was the runner-up. And at that point, he was seen as being a little bit perhaps of a dodge pot type of horse. But he went to Ascot and absolutely sluiced up in the Wolverton. He's probably the easiest winner of the week. Just makes you wonder, how good could Passenger be? So yes, he's coming back off the break, which isn't ideal, and they've clearly had to graft quite hard to get him, where he is. Yes, the yard form is not all singing, all dancing, but I'm just really excited by this horse. I think it's a division that's open to have a really, really top class horse. Michael Stout brings these horses along slowly. So whilst he has got more experience than King's Gambit, I think he's still open to stacks of improvement just because of the way he's been trained and who he's been trained by. So despite not being massively in love with the price at 7-4, I'm with Passenger here, and I think he could finish on top.
Yeah, when you look at the race, you think there's actually not a huge amount of pace on. Maybe it's Royal Rhyme that will go on. A lot of horses that like to sort of come off the pace a little bit and might be played late. So it could be a little bit messy, especially for Passenger, who can be quite slow away. So tactically, whenever we see a 5-runner race of this nature, there could be a little bit of a shock with that in mind. So as I said, I do think tactics are really going to come into play, especially when they know, I think the Harry Charlton team, what happened last time with King's Gambit and how things can go so wrong. So TC, just quickly, do you see a change in tactics for King's Gambit?
No, I think they'll sit at the back, to be honest. The reason why I like him, not only is the price and everything I've already said, but I think he's got the best turn of foot in the race, doesn't he? I know that Passenger has a wicked bit of acceleration on his best. Alflaler's more of a grinder, in my opinion, wants a little bit further in trip, and therefore York really suits him with the long home straight. I think King's Gambit's got the best turn of foot, and therefore, even if this does become very tactical and they go slow and then quicken, I think he could quicken past them all,
He might just have that little bit more speed. He's got quite a mixed bag of a pedigree, whereas looking at Passenger, he's probably the one that, as you say, he's not sort of got that natural speed as such, like his main sort of rival does here. So I'm with you with King's Gambit. We'll see how Sir Michael Stout can work the oracle in this horse Passenger, who could be an extremely important horse for him, and what's been quite enough year this year for one of our legends of the racing game. So that are our main races this weekend, but we've got plenty of naps, next bests that we can give you as well. As I said, we do have Goodwood next week. I think York and Ascot has taken up a lot of good interest from storyline perspectives, and some great handicaps as well. That Mo and Shandon, always a good one at Ascot. So I'll come to TC first, who's been chomping at the bit for a winner after edging so close. And I know that you're firmly focused on Ascot this week.
Yeah, last week was really frustrating, so hopefully we can bounce back. As you said at the top of the show, nothing worse than hitting the woodwork on numerous occasions. So fingers crossed for a winner this week, and hopefully that'll be the Nap, which comes in the 4:15 at Ascot, the listed Pat Eddery Stakes. It's a really nice event for the 2-year-olds. Unfortunately, it has cut up in terms of runners. There are only 5 declared when there, I think, were 13 entered, which is disappointing, but hopefully we can find the winner. Now, the form setter, and probably likely favourite, there are no odds at the time of recording, is Al Qudra for Charlie Appleby and Godolphin. He ran over 5 furlongs first 2 times, was a little bit disappointing, being beaten on both occasions. Stepped up to 6 around Lingfield and won nicely on the all-weather, and then finished 5th in the Coventry, which is the best piece of form in the race. So I can see why he's favourite. He's rated 101, but he is stepping up in trip to 7 furlongs, and we may not see that big step of improvement that you do need with 2-year-olds at this time of year. So I think he could be vulnerable. The other horse in there with a rating is definitely vulnerable, has something to find on Al Qudra anyway. And then it kind of leads me to an unexposed type. And albeit John and Thady Gosden haven't run very many 2-year-olds this year, I think it's just 12 in total. And that's not in terms of quantity of 2-year-olds. That's how many runs they've had in total across all their 2-year-olds. I think they might have landed on a good one already in Chancellor. And I did tweet straight after his victory at Doncaster, where he was extremely impressive, blowing the start and powering through late over 6 furlongs, that this horse could be a future Group 1 star. So I'm sticking by my word here. He's a son of Kingman, fantastic pedigree. He looked all at sea on debut, but he really finished off well. And if you look back at the sectionals, he produced it wasn't an amazing last sectional. It was 12.5, but it was still over half a second quicker than any other horse in the field, which showed that he really hit the line nicely. I think he's only going to improve for the step up and trip. And if he handles Ascot, fingers crossed he does, then Chancellor can hopefully take that next step in his career, where hopefully he'll end up in a Group 1 and be one of these horses that we're talking about in our featured races in the future. So he's my nap. He runs in the 4:15 at Ascot. My next best, a bit more of a long shot, runs in the 3 o'clock at Ascot, is the International Handicap. Massive field, 18 runners, kind of a bit of a pin job as well, where you could make a case for plenty of these. There are course specialists in there like Orazio and Fresh, Carry the One, who I think Ross may touch on, who's been unlucky recently. But I'm going to side with Billy Joe for Mick Appleby. He just looks like a horse that's really improved this year. He was still green after around 5 or 6 starts. He's been a bit of a slow developer, but I was impressed with him last time. I thought he did well against the near side, coming with a big late run at Royal Ascot. He beat Carry the One by 1 place. And I know Carry the One was a little bit more unlucky in that race in terms of traffic issues, but I thought he shaped really well, and he's only going to improve as we keep going through the season. What's more key here is the high draw for me. I think you want to be drawn high in this race, and he's found himself in stall 15. Ross Orion could have ridden Alto, who's actually a shorter price in the market. He rode him last time to success, but has chosen Billy Joe. I think there are a lot of things going in his favour, and he's around 9-1. So Billy Joe in the 3 o'clock Ascot is my next best.
Okay, Chancellor in the 4:15, that Pat Edry Stakes, it was won by Rosalian last year. We know what he's gone on to do. So it's turned good horses into exceptional horses, that race. And Billy Joe in the 3 o'clock at Ascot for TC. So, I mean, that leads us on quite nicely, Ross. I know you could do your next best before your nap. But there is a horse, I do think, Carry the One, who's got the potential to turn into a bit of a cliff horse, because he's very much hyped up after Royal Ascot to win at Newmarket last time, and he got into traffic problems again. But I feel like you believe that this will be his day. Pat Dobbs is on board again after being on him a couple of times already this season. Why is it going to work out this time?
Well, with both the nap and the next best, Jess, it's a little bit of a case of once more into the breach we go again, my friends. But Carry the One, he's been unlucky he's met traffic trouble in 3 runs this year. He managed to win at Newmarket despite traffic trouble, then went to Ascot, and for me and I think a few others, he was the eye catcher of the meeting, got absolutely no sort of run at all in the Buckingham Palace, flew home, finished 3rd. I tipped him up last time. He had Ryan Moore on board, so you thought, of course, best jockey in the world is bound to navigate a safe passage for Carry the One. He went there off his mark of 101, which he stayed on from Ascot, which I thought was a generous piece of handicapping, and unfortunately found himself behind a wall of horses, went to move left, decided to go right, and the gap shut, and that was his race over. I think crucially, perhaps the experience of Ryan Moore and perhaps the sort of being more relaxed with the nature of flat racing didn't give him a hard time then after that, to try and finish 3rd or 4th, just rode him out, didn't give him a tough race, stays on a mark of 101. And it's just a case of surely but surely at some point he is going to get the breaks that he needs. I'm less worried about TC I'm less worried than TC about the draw. He's in 6. Yes, there might be an argument that higher is better, but we saw throughout Royal Ascot week that it just switched constantly. So it wasn't a factor I was prepared to get too hung up on. I'm more interested in his mark of 101. He's definitely better than that. Yes, he won't be a comfortable watch, but one of these days he will get a clear pass. And I think when he does, he's going to prove a lot better than his mark of 101. So he's the next best in the 3 o'clock. My nap comes in the 225, the Valiant Stakes. It's again a horse I've tipped the last 2 runs. She ran very well when winning at Ascot in the Sandringham. Is Soprano. I tipped her last time in the Coral Distaff. I thought she still ran really well. Positioned at the back as she has been, came there beautifully into the race and just couldn't quicken on the rain-softened ground. The one thing it did show to me is that Billy Loughnane really understands this filly. She goes very well for him. He's back on board. Goes back to Ascot. Okay, we're on the round course now, and she won the Sandringham on the straight course. But I think she's got a better surface to race on. That's really important to her. She's a long-legged, beautiful action filly. I think she just struggled to pick up the hill at Sandon on soft, tacky ground. Carries just 8 stone 11, so she gets the £8 age allowance from the older mares. I think that gives her a really good chance. She's a mare that is on an upward trajectory, I think, and I think she'll land the 225 the Valiant Stakes.
Okay, Soprano, yeah, as you say, she was given a lot to do that day at Sandown and was able to come home quite strongly. And she's back at the track that she won her biggest day in the sunshine at Royal Ascot. And Billy Lochnan, who's got a big day, I hope, when I get to my next best, for Soprano, who is in the 225, carry the one. Will he get his gaps? He is running in that Mare and Sandown International Stakes. So my selections again come at Ascot. I'm going for Woodhay Wonder in the 525 for Tom Ward and Tom Marquand. I was watching where they were going to send her because they had an option up at York over 6 furlongs, but they stuck to the 5 furlongs here. I think this is the right call. It's not a massively deep race by any stretch of the imagination. Might be some horses saving themselves for another day, maybe next week. And she obviously had a fantastic effort in the Palace of Holyrood House when last year when she was fourth. She's been a real a credit to her yard. She definitely trained on to a high standard, and I think that she could throw in a massive run again. And then finally, my next best is been a great friend and he's just such a tough and bit of a legend of the yard at Jamie's, is Great Blasket. He runs in the 450. He's had a little break since he was last seen at Sandown, where he was running on softish ground than he would have liked. Everyone's always thought he would absolutely relish being at Ascot in a hold up kind of race if there's enough pace on, which hopefully Tempest will be able to create from the draw next door to him, and hopefully he'll be given a nice waiting patient ride, which sees him to really good effect. So Great Blasket in the 450, who is horse number 11. So that's it. Now, before we go, I know we're focusing solely on the flat at the moment, but we've had sad news come in today that one of the jump racing legends of the game, whether you're a flat or a jump fan, Istabraq has passed away. And I think it was at the age of 32 he got to. He was a credit to everyone at Martinstown for keeping him such good nick up until his last days. And he really got so many people into the sport in terms of his race record, but the people he was connected with. And I know Ross, I'm sure, as a dour jumps fan, Istabraq is the kind of horse that we will always thank for giving us some fabulous glory days wherever you would have followed him. So a sad day, but a wonderful credit that he was able to live out his years up into the very best, enjoy his life not just on the racetrack but retired as well, and a lot of happy memories of as I said, one of the legends of the game.
Yeah, a really beautiful horse, and like you say, beautifully trained by Aidan O'Brien. Quite what he's gone on to do over as a jumps trainer is debatable. But yeah, a horse that really drew me in. He was not the best flat horse, showed that horses can transform for jumping obstacles, loved his racing. But for me, more important than anything he achieved on the track was what JP McManus and Martinstown achieved with him off the track in a time when we are under pressure from lots of different angles about how these horses are treated in training and after training. And racing has got a lot of questions to answer in terms of getting better at looking after horses when they come out of the training system. Istabraq, those images of him having his birthday cake, JP McManus seeing him every day, that's a really positive image that I think did untold good for the sport. It's great that, he surpassed the racing media. I think, certainly in Ireland, Istabraq's birthday was a news article, not just a sports news article. So, a really special horse. Lived to a great old age in very nice, luxurious surroundings, and he's going to be greatly missed.
Yeah, and any racing fan that flies through or out of Dublin Airport will see a fabulous painting of him. I think it's in Terminal 2 at Dublin Airport of Istabraq. That just goes to show what status he has in the country. 3-time champion hurdle winner, trained to perfection by Aidan O'Brien when he spent a lot of his time focusing on the jumps. So I know that he'll have plenty to say about a horse that kind of cemented his early stage of his career. But thoughts with everyone connected with Istabraq, and let's hope that we have given you a few winners this weekend. Don't forget, all new SBK users get £30 in free bets when you sign up and bet £10 for the first time. Also, make sure to head to SBK for lots of other offers and promotions throughout the weekend. TC Ross, great to speak to you. Let's hope we come back next week to go through all of our winners and preview some more action, and we'll see you very soon.